A lot of you might be wondering whether nasal sprays, decongestions, or intranasal steroids are a good idea and if you should be using them. So let's debunk that. Nasal sprays. So it's going to come in a bottle that looks similar to this, and it's designed where you're going to give a puff directly into the nose. Now these are designed to decongest your nose and help you to breathe clearly. And for some of you, you may think that that's going to help you get your sense of smell back. Now, using this the odd time during a cold or if you have allergies is understandable, especially when you get a lot of inflammation in the area and you can't breathe through your nose. But if you can get some air through your nose, you should not use this too often, because what ends up happening is when you spray it, it constricts the blood vessels in your nose. These blood vessels are lining the tissue inside your nose, so it's not skin on the inside, and that's called mucosa. So constricting those blood vessels long term will cause something that's called the rebound effect, which means that when you don't use the spray, your vessels will be even more dilated than they normally are, because your body is trying to counteract the constriction that the spray is constantly giving it. So then you're actually going to need to use it just to get the blood vessels constricted to a normal size. That rebound effect is why you should not be using it, and many ENT specialists will even tell you that a form of addiction can be developed by the body to the decongestant spray. So this is not a great long-term solution. You definitely don't want to be using it for weeks to months. You only want to use it a handful of times if it's a seasonal thing, or if you just woke up and your nose is really, really blocked and it's driving you crazy. Otherwise, this is not a good long-term solution and not something that we endorse at Sniffly for you to help get your sense of smell back faster. The next suspect is nasal rinses. Now, nasal rinses are usually with saline. As long as they are with saline, I have absolutely no problem with it, and I would actually encourage you to do it. Now, you can find tons of videos on YouTube or online, wherever, of people showing you how to do a nasal rinse. And it's basically just spraying saline, which is salt water, in through your nostril, and it's going to come right out the other one. So what this ends up doing is it removes any blockages in your nostril. It's sometimes soothing. The saline, the salt water can be soothing as well for the mucosa, and it just helps get flush bacteria out as well. So for a lot of people, bacteria can sit in there, and then eventually that's how you get a sinusitis. In terms of clearing blockage, this is a much better option than the nasal spray. The nasal spray is good for people who have allergies and a more inflammatory response. But if you're just clogged or you just got some gunk in your nose, in general, there's no problem. There's no issues with doing it regularly. There's no rebound effect or anything like that to be worried about, and it's not going to damage any of the mucosal surfaces within your nose. Even if you were to do it daily, it would only be a good thing. So that's my take on nasal rinses. And lastly, intranasal steroids. Those are an interesting topic. So those will reduce inflammation the same way the spray does. It actually reduces the inflammation a lot better. However, with long-term use, you can actually thin the mucosal layer. So it's not that you damage it, but it becomes more susceptible to damage, if that makes sense. So by thinning the tissue, you'll be more susceptible to nosebleeds, and you'll be susceptible to infections potentially and other problems that come along with a thinned and weakened mucosal line. Again, not something that I would recommend regularly for the use of post-viral syndrome, like what the smell loss you get with COVID. However, if it's something that your doctor is recommending you use for a very short period of time, there's absolutely no problem with that. You should definitely listen to your doctor. However, in terms of going and getting yourself a steroid nasal spray for the sake of improving your sense of smell post-virally after COVID, it's not going to do you much good. The only one of the three that we've discussed that will actually help and you can use long-term is nasal rinsing. And for that, I think you should watch a video on it online on how to do it safely and appropriately. But once you get that part down, I think it's an excellent addition to any morning or night routine.